Welcome to it, sports fans. It is nearly the weekend. So congratulations. You lived through another week as a human being on the third rock from the sun. Welcome to a different ball game. Let us get into the show. We've got a great guest today, a serious warrior, and it's going to be fantastic to chat to him a little bit later. But we are going to talk the greatest centre-backs in Premier League history. And then Woude, of course, is going to review or preview the weekend's rugby action. Some of it took place this morning. So we're really looking forward to hearing what Woude's got to say and her predictions there. On that note, Woude, how are you today?
Yes, no, I'm happy that it's Friday. I'm getting a new nephew on Monday, so very exciting weekend. And my family's here, so it's a good weekend that I'm looking forward to. Yeah, and some good rugby. Cannot wait for the game tomorrow morning.
Yeah, that's awesome. Baby in the family.
But now Eskom has decided to do load shedding again, and I'm going to have load shedding during the game tomorrow morning.
So what's load shedding for those non-South African people that do watch us?
It means that our electricity gets turned off for a certain amount of time, for about 2.5 hours at certain times during the day, because our main centers do not know how to handle and deal with our situations in our country.
You have it, folks. If you are in America, you are like, what? What? Oh, well, living in Africa, another day in Africa. All right. Congratulations on the new baby in the family. Of course, not yours, Woude. Let's make that clear. Woude is not having a baby. It is somebody in her family. Congratulations. You're becoming an aunt.
For the second time, yeah.
All right.
I already have a niece. That's almost 2, and my nephew is coming on Monday.
Lovely. Lovely. All the best there. And I hope you enjoy your weekend with your family. But let's get into it. I'm really looking forward to this weekend. Of course, the action in the top 4 is hotting up. It is hotting up. It's United won last night. Unbelievably egregious. VAR decision, by the way. If you haven't seen it, go on YouTube. Bruno Fernandes penalty decision. Disgraceful. Howard Webb's back in the booth. But anyway, that's not what we're going to talk about today. We are going to talk a little bit about the greatest centre-backs in the history of the Premier League. So on Fridays, I do something called the Friday 5, and we're going to get into it. This week, I'm going to do the greatest centre-backs in Premier League history, and we are going to get into it. So as I said, top 5. Here we go. At number 5, listen, very rarely do transfers work out. But for £8 million, Manchester City went and made, I believe, the greatest money for value purchase in the history of the Premier League. They went and got him from PSV. He was kind of playing defensive mid there. They made him their centre-back. A couple of years later, he was their captain. At number 5, I mean, the ultimate leader, right? Great ball skills, could play it out from the back. £8 million is all he cost, ladies and gentlemen. The ultimate leader, 4 Premier League titles later, and he scored, of course, in Pep Guardiola's first season, that goal to go and win it for them. Ladies and gentlemen, at number 5, the great Vincent Kompany. At number 4, he made the Judas move, right? He made the Judas move. You don't do it. There are 2 moves in football which you just don't do. Real Madrid to Barcelona, and then there's the other one in North London. He went from from Spurs to Arsenal. Shocker. Judas move, but he did it. He went on to be a rock for the Invincibles. An absolute rock, a physical freak, a beast of a man, never seemed to be out of position. If he was, no problem. Raw strength like a bison, the intelligence of Franz Beckenbauer. At number 4, ladies and gentlemen, the great, the truly great, and invincible, Sol Campbell. At number 3, now, Sir Alex Ferguson went to Holland, went to Ajax, broke the then world record fee for a centre-back, £10.6 million. The Premier League was never the same again. He led them to a treble. He led them to a three-peat. He was the bedrock of the greatest dynasty in modern-day football. They won the treble, the dynasty, three-peat. He was the bedrock they built everything on. He was unbelievable coming out from that. One of the greatest Dutch players of all time. At number 3, the great Jaap Stam. What a player he was. At number 2, this one's pretty simple. It's actually very, very simple. He's one half of the greatest CB combination there's ever been. How do I know that? They conceded 15 goals in one season. He arrived from Porto, where they'd won everything with Mourinho. Solidified the back four. Not only was he tough, tremendous ball player, Probably the best athlete Chelsea have ever had as a backline player. This guy changed everything. He came in, took Terry to another level. At number 2, the one and only Portugal's finest, Ricky Carvalho. What a sensational centre-back he was. At number 1, this one is... He's light years ahead of everyone. Nobody's ever been this guy. £7 million. And everybody said, who's this guy? That's what he cost Manchester United. Here's what makes this guy the greatest centre-back to ever play in the league. For 3 seasons, he wasn't just the best centre-back. This has never happened before. It's never been repeated outside of forward players. He was the best player in the league for 3 seasons. So not just the best centre-back. This doesn't happen, people. In football, let me tell you how you know who's the best player. Is you get to play further forward. The better you are, there's a very simple rule. The better you are, the further forward you play. For 3 seasons, this guy was the best player in the league. He was a part of the second time United three-peated. Quite simply, the best centre-back in the league. Ball skills, he looked like a soldier. He really looked like he was built in a factory. This guy was unbelievable. A true soldier. Alongside Rio Ferdinand, they reinvigorated United, went 3 on the bounce again, won a Champions League. Quite simply, the best Serbia has ever produced. Ladies and gentlemen, at number 1, the greatest centre-back by a country mile. No one comes close. There is nobody in his vicinity. For 3 seasons, the greatest player in the league. Ladies and gentlemen, at number 1, the greatest centre-back to ever play in the English Premier League. The one and only Nemanja Vidic. There's never been anything like him. You look for pace, power, intelligence. In the first season, Fergie said he didn't know how to look after himself very well. He was getting a lot of injuries because he was just full force. They kind of refined that a little bit. He cost £7 million coming from Russia. That is all he cost. He went on to become, quite simply, the most dynastic centre-back we've ever seen. He changed the game. He was so powerful, never out of position. And people love Rio Ferdinand. I don't. He was a mistakes machine. And I think you saw at the end when Rio's athleticism left him. Not good enough. Full of mistakes. But Rio at his best, absolutely sensational. Rio at his best, absolutely sensational. But when the pace left, then we saw, oh, this whole thing was Vidic. Vidic was a beast. Best player in the league for 3 years. Give me that top 5 list again, Dave. I don't know how you're getting anybody else in there. Could have argued for Pallister, for Bruce, but they weren't company's level. And then from there, you start looking for people that have won the Premier League or changed the Premier League. So whenever I make top 5 lists is, have you revolutionized the league? Company, leadership, right? Captain, most important person at the club, 4 Premier League titles. He led 3 different teams under 3 different coaches to titles. That's greatness. Sol Campbell, he made the Judas move. The expectation at Arsenal was through the roof. He said, hey, I'll tell you what, I'll put this thing on my back. We'll go invincible. It'll never be done again. Sol Campbell, the rock of that team. Number 3, Yapstam's Yapstam, right? 5-6 years, he was the best defender in the world by, it wasn't close. Treble, 3-peat, dynasty. Quite unbelievable. Yapstam, one of the greatest Dutch players of all time. Hey, that says something. I think we could go through a list of top 10 that might be in the top 20 if you include all the Dutch players. Yapstam, one of the greatest. Ricky Carvalho changed the image of a centre-back in the Premier League. Never had pace and power and skill been combined like this to be in one centre-back. So you'd seen powerful, but then he lacked the ball skills. Ledley King, Sol Campbell, right? You'd seen skilled Rio Ferdinand, but then he wouldn't have the positioning. He might have the athleticism and he might have the skill, but then Rio couldn't really defend. His athleticism was everything. Carvalho had the full package. Like Beckenbauer coming out the back, and you weren't moving him out the way, and he was a nasty bugger. Tell you what, Carvalho loved the goal as well. Loved the goal. Ricky Carvalho at number 2. Nemanja Vidic, the full product. There's nothing Nemanja Vidic couldn't do. Played out from the back. If it's getting tough, no problem. Cold Monday night in Stoke, you want Nemanja Vidic on your team. Vidic, Carvalho, Stam, Campbell, Company. The 5 greatest CBs in Premier League history. Would love to hear what people want to have to say. But for me, it does not get much better than that. And, you know, for me, it's easy to argue as a Chelsea fan. I know people say, hey, where's John Terry? Listen, I'm not biased. I saw what I saw. And to be clear, the Chelsea team, I got to watch them live. I was living in the United Kingdom at the time, so I saw that dynasty live. I saw Terry and Carvalho live. I was like, okay, this thing, that's absolutely on that guy. That Portuguese guy over there, he's everything. So it's very easy for me to try and maybe slip in a Chelsea player here, left out a couple of United guys, but you have to change the league. You can't just be a guy. You have to change the league. And all 5 of those guys either changed the league or were the greatest for 4 or 5 years in the league. Would love to hear what people have to say. Would love your list of top 5 centre-backs of all time. Hey, you know what's great? Sport is back, man. We are back. By the way, our guest a little later loves to fight in the cage, but also loves Liverpool. We're going to have plenty of football talk with him. I'm sure he'll have his say. I had a guy, and I'm sure somebody's going to say, hey, where's Virgil van Dijk? He's done it for 1 season. Stop it. He's won 1 Premier League title. Get out of here with that. Get out of here with that nonsense. But rough and tumble. We're talking about rough and tumble. We're talking about rugby next. We're talking about Super Rugby next. I'm going to hand you over to Woude Muller in the skip pass.
Yes, we are in week 5 of New Zealand Super Rugby and week 2 of Australian Super Rugby. So this morning, the Rebels and the Reds played. I watched a little bit of that game. I really thought that the Rebels were going to take that one. Like on the 80th minute, they were 18-11 ahead. And then the Reds scored. The Reds hooker actually scored in the last possible second that they could have scored. And John O'Connor kicked it over. So they went into, for the first time, into super time golden point, which is a new rule that they've brought in. When you do draw, you go into super time, 5 minutes aside, and the first team that scores wins. So no one scored, and it still ended up in a draw, which I don't really understand what the point is of that then. If you're going to still end in a draw, why play an extra 10 minutes if you're not going to go on until a team wins? I don't really understand that. And I don't know if you have anything to say around that, because that doesn't really make a lot of sense to me.
Rugby's an amateur sport. Like, if we're going to play to win, let's play to win.
Yes.
I think, we were talking to our producer and director, the voice of God, Dave, and he made a great point. Other than gambling, I don't see the point of having the extra period and then not like a kickoff or something, because the World Cup has it. Just there's 5, you pick 5 points on the 22, fly half kicks, and it's like a penalty shootout in football. So what are we doing here? Amateur.
So I don't know if it was just Australian rugby and they didn't know that they should be doing that, because we know how ridiculous Australian rugby is at the moment. But even after all of that, this is the first time in the game that they actually had kind of all the new rules that they implemented in this new tournament. So they had the 50-22 rule where you kick out of your 50, and then when it bounces into touch into the opposition's 22, you get the line out. They also had the goal line dropout, where the player was held up over the goal line, so there's not a 5-meter scrum anymore. The opposition team, defending team, gets a goal line dropout. But I couldn't really figure out what difference it really made to the game. And again, I don't know if it's just Australian rugby. I don't know if we're trying to judge it too early to see what these new regulations and rules can do to rugby. But it didn't feel like it opened up the field to me a little bit more, because I think that's the thinking behind it, to make the game faster and to open up the field so that there's not that massive line up defense anymore. But for me, it didn't really do much. I mean, their lineouts are also really, really bad. So, maybe that was the reason, but it's Australian rugby. And then tomorrow morning, the Waratahs and the Force are playing each other. So the Force is returning to Super Rugby for the first time since 2017. Before they got kicked out of Super Rugby, I think against the Waratahs, they won 4 out of 6 matches, but I can't really see the Tars winning, the Western Force winning this one. They haven't been involved in this for a really long time. It will be interesting to see how they can play, but I can't see them winning that one. I guess the Waratahs by 12, 16, maybe. Yeah, that's my call for that one. And then we move over again to the better rugby into New Zealand. So the Crusaders and the Blues are playing tomorrow morning, which is obviously a top of the conference match. It's 2 unbeaten teams, and I'm going to leave that for last. And then the Hurricanes and the Highlanders are playing on Sunday morning. So both of those teams had to make a few changes. So the Hurricanes had to make a few changes due to injuries. Dane Coles is out with a calf injury. Fraser Armstrong is also out. And Reed Prinsep, who was brilliant last week on defense, he also can't play due to injury. So a few of the players are out. Highlanders also had to make a few changes. Josh Dixon has got a fractured leg, so he's going to be out for the rest of the Super Rugby season. But interestingly, the Highlanders are trying the whole 6-2 split off their bench. 6 forward, 2 back. So exactly what Rusty Erasmus did in the World Cup with the Springboks. So that will be interesting to see how they're going to deal with that. For me, though, Hurricanes will take that one. But me, the game of the weekend, and if you don't watch any other rugby this weekend, you have to watch the Crusaders and Blues game. I think this is going to be brilliant rugby. Obviously, the Crusaders are really, really brilliant. And we can look at their matchups, their head-to-heads. Dave, if you can put that up for me. So they played against each other 35 times in history, and the Crusaders have won 24 and the Blues only 11. In Christchurch, the Blues have only managed to win 3 times. Crusaders 13. But out of their last 10 matches, the Crusaders won all 10 of them. The last time they played was this year in February. Crusaders won that one. The last time the Blues beat the Crusaders was back in 2014, February of 2014. And that was in Auckland, so it wasn't even in Christchurch. And now, the last time that they did beat them in Christchurch was in 2004. So if you look at this, the chances of the Blues winning this game, not really great. But the Blues have been playing much better rugby, so maybe it will be a bit closer than what we think. If we look at the teams though, the Crusaders seem to be sticking to their whole rotation of players. So last week, Severies played off the bench. He's back in the starting lineup. We've also got George Bridge, who was rested last week. He's back. And Bryn Hall is starting with Drummond on the bench. David Avili is also starting at 15, which means, very interestingly, that Will Jordan, the star of Super Rugby up until this point, is moved to the bench. Now, if I was a Blues player, I would be wondering, do they think maybe they don't need him right from the start? Or imagine what's going to happen with him coming off the bench in the second half. And that, just strike the fire that he's going to bring on. So as a Blues, I would be a little bit worried with that. We've also got Tom Christie on, because Cullen Grace is still injured. If we look at the Blues, they've made minimal changes since last week. The one that is interesting for Finley Christie is starting at 9, because Sam Knock is not even in the match 23. Now I'm hoping it's because he's going for a haircut, and that's probably why they left him out of the team. Maybe it's his box ticks. I'm hoping he's getting a haircut. Plummer is also starting at 12, which is really interesting. So, which means Payane dropped to the bench. But now Plummer's job is to stop Goodyear and Eno, and that's going to be a massive job for anyone in that midfield to stop those two guys. So, Plummer, I wish you all of the best on that. And then obviously I would like to see how Sototo is going to match up against Douglas, because let's be honest, Sototo has been absolutely brilliant. And I think Tuapoloto, who's the captain for the Blues, would really want to show what he can do against Sam Whitelock. Sam Whitelock has not exactly been on his top play since he came back from Japan. So I think Tuapoloto will definitely be able to give him a little bit of gas. I mean, Whitelock's a class player, but that will be interesting to see. One thing that the Crusaders are getting right is this whole rotation of their players. Because remember, it's only a 10-week tournament, and they're playing hard matches week after week after week. So you have to manage bruised bodies. Your body is not getting a chance to rest at all. And it's not really getting a chance to recover from the weekend's bashing. So the Crusaders have really been doing a great job with looking after their players and managing their players. So moving forward in the tournament, that's going to count in their favor because they'll have less injuries moving forward. So for this one, some people would say, or would want to call the Blues to win. And I get that because the Blues have been playing really brilliant rugby. For me, I can't see them beating the Crusaders in Christchurch. So that's my betting for the weekend. What do you think?
Crusaders. I mean, it's not even, I don't know why anybody would. Yeah, I've got to go Crusaders. You know what I think of them? They're the best team in the world. when they lose, it's a shock. So for me, I don't love the Blues as much as people do. I think there's a big drop off after the Blues in New Zealand rugby. We've seen it now. It's not quite what it used to be, where New Zealand's strong across the board. So I think this is the first week we'll see, are the Blues actually the real deal? Because they'll get tested. The Crusaders are going to test you everywhere. If your tight five is not on it, you're going to feel it this weekend. If your loose forwards aren't up to it, you're going to know about it. And then what? Like you said, probably the player of the tournament is going to come off the bench. And then you're starting Severis. Oh, Crusaders by a bit. So I've done my super brew, by the way.
Have you done it?
I have. I've locked it in.
Okay, good. So, but just imagine, as a Crusaders fan, and just imagine how much depth you have in your squad if you put Will Jordan on the bench. Like, seriously. You're like, no, it's fine. Our other players are such a high standard. We compare the best player of the tournament. We'll just put him on the bench and bring out just after halftime. It's fine. We don't need him.
I mean, think about it this way, right? Is at a stage, so it's not new if you're a Crusaders fan, because if you think back to their first dynasty, here's what their locks were. Chris Jack with Norm Maxwell. Oh, that's looking a little scratchy. Who's our rotation guy? Todd Blackadder, who'd become the All Black captain. That was their lineup. So this Crusaders machine's it's out of hand, man. It's out of hand. They need to do something about, I don't know. They need to go and investigate what factory are they getting these guys from.
Well, I mean, before you were only really allowed to sign players from your region in New Zealand. That has changed a little bit. But obviously that region where they're coming from is just producing youngsters and incredible players coming through the ranks. It has changed now that you can move a little bit more. I think in New Zealand you have about 6 players or something that you can get from another region moving up. So that's kind of how that works. Maybe they're going to have to start changing that for New Zealand rugby to get like top across the board, because the Crusaders are just top and top and top. So obviously, whatever they're doing in the schools and the Metro 10 Cup, keep doing it because it's working.
Working out. What do you think of the Mo'unga versus Barrett battle? Do you think that's something to look out for?
Well, I quite like Otera Black. I don't know why people are so all of these articles, it's all these headlines is that they're sticking with an inexperienced player when Dan Carter's the water boy. What did you expect? Dan Carter to come back and play a match against the Crusaders in the Super Rugby when he just played his first club match last weekend? Like, what are you thinking? Yes, Dan Carter is amazing, but not Dan Carter anymore. And I think people are going to be so disappointed seeing him play because he's not what he used to be. And you can't expect him to be what he used. Exactly. You can't expect him to be what he used to be. I mean, he still looks like he hasn't aged a day and still absolutely gorgeous. So having him there is brilliant because I think it's drawing a lot of women to go watch rugby. Maybe that's what we need right now.
Whoa, little sexist. Whoa. Sexist there. Whoa. There are gay men who watch rugby. So I'm triggered about that. I mean, not being gay myself.
From my own experience.
Okay, sorry. Your Oprah says you have to speak your own truth. Sorry, I didn't acknowledge that. I'm so sorry, buddy.
Exactly. So, but having Garrett as a back, I wonder how much Garrett will actually move into first receiver if they are going to start doing that. I think Black has done an incredible job with managing the back line and controlling and being a general in that first receiver. So I'm not sure how much you're going to bring Garrett in. But it will be interesting. I think Mo'unga's kicking and general play has just been incredible. I mean, his stats from kicking to passing to running the ball has been very, very equal. So you never know what he's going to do. So for me, I think the more interesting thing will be is how Black is going to deal with that. Because yes, he is still a rookie, he is still quite a young player. So I think from Barrett, it will be interesting to see what Barrett can do, kicking towards David Avili and then Will Jordan coming on, and how they're going to put pressure on him at the back.
Yeah, it is interesting, hey, because I think we live in like a Twitter, Instagram, YouTube world now. It'll be interesting for me what happens with Barrett if like Mo'unga has 5 or 6 great moments, whether he's going to just, kind of still try and be the senior pro and stay at fullback. Because, hey, if we get a great highlights reel from Mo'unga here, don't you think Barrett is like, uh-oh. No, I'm not letting you upstage me here. And then how's that going to work with Otari Black? And because he's supposed to be like mentoring him. I think it could get interesting. If Mwanga has a great first half, expect Barrett to be playing fly half the whole game. I don't care that I'm wearing 50.
I can. So I can see him wanting to go because obviously everyone is talking about Mohanga being the better flyer for New Zealand at the moment. So, and I would think that he would probably want to move into that first receiver into fly half position. It would be interesting to know what Leon McDonald said to him. And I definitely think the Crusaders are going to put a lot of pressure on him at the back, kicking a lot on him. So he seems to have his hands full.
Great weekend of rugby coming up. I cannot wait to watch that game. Probably the two best New Zealand coaches outside of the guys that are doing their thing at the top, right? I think Leon McDonald might get coach of the season. He's been unbelievable because they were dog poop last year.
They were. And Scott Robertson and Leon McDonald are actually teammates before. So it's also quite interesting to see this matchup. I know when Scott Robertson got, when he was applying for the New Zealand job, Leon McDonald was going to be one of his assistant coaches. So he did bring him up. So those two also have a really good relationship with each other. But I hope there will be a bit of banter between them. Two very good coaches, two very good teams. Yeah, let's see what the Blues can do against the Crusaders.
Awesome. Okay, Woude, very nice. That is the skip pass for today. I can't wait to watch that rugby. Let's look for that battle. Hey, strong Crusaders theme in that game. Great point there, Woude. Robertson, of course, with his old teammate. And here's what's scary is that was the best Crusaders dynasty. Forget what they've been doing over the last 5 years. Just remember that team. Oh, my goodness. Just naming Chris Jack, Aaron Major. Oh, it's sickening how good these guys are. So let's hope the Blues are bringing up a new dynasty. Who knows? Leon McDonald, all the best. I'm predicting Crusaders. Woude, I think, has sided that way as well. That is the skip pass. Woude, good stuff. Coming up next, somebody who played rugby as well. Not too bad at that. But then he went on to be a human cockfighter. Jumped into a cage and smashed people in the face. And a really nice guy as well, besides his Liverpool fanatic nature. But can't wait to talk to him. It's an honor to have this guy here, ladies and gentlemen. After this, we will bring you our guest. Yeah, we're going to get straight into it because this guy is somebody who, hey, we're a sports show. Now we're a sports show. We've got the best this continent's ever produced in MMA coming up. So I'm going to introduce our guest, ladies and gentlemen. Let's get straight into it. Let's not muck about because he didn't muck about, ladies and gentlemen, coming out of Vereniging in the Val of Johannesburg. Started off as a provincial rugby player, transitioned to the caged and changed the game forever. EFC was built on his back. Ladies and gentlemen, introducing former UFC and current EFC star and just a machine in the cage. Ladies and gentlemen, the awesome, the Liverpool aficionado. Congratulations to him and his team, introducing the one and only Soldier Boy, Garreth McLellan.
Hey, what's happening, guys?
How are you, big man?
Yeah, I'm alright.
Listen, bro, great to have you on. You know, like I used to see you doing your thing and I thought, oh my goodness, this guy needs to be a monster. And then I hear your interviews. I'm like, hey, this is one of the nicest human beings on earth. Like, do people get shocked when they meet you? This is just like, wow, this guy is just golden.
Yeah, look, I mean, I often get situations where people go, well, you normal. And I'm like, no, what am I? I am human. I don't know what you're expecting. it does often happen. People do expect me to be this very unapproachable, quite scary kind of person. But yeah, no, I'm just an ordinary guy like the rest of us fine South African men.
Yeah, well, except you could break my arm in a split second. I mean, other than that discrepancy where you're actually somebody who could displace my shoulder with a toothpick. Yeah, other than that, I guess we're the same. Yeah.
No, look, we're all the same. We brave, we tough, we loud. So there's not much difference in us. I just have a certain skill set. That's all.
Oh, you and Liam Neeson.
I will find you.
Soldier Boy. Hey, Garreth, so what do your mates call you? Garreth or Soldier Boy? What do we...
Oh, geez, I've had a range of nicknames over the span of my lifetime. I've had Papa G, I've had G, I've had G-Man, I've had Gaza, Soldier Boy. My close friends who I grew up with, they refuse to call me Soldier Boy. They'll call me by my childhood names. But yeah, I mean, a lot of people actually don't even really know my real name. They just know me as Soldier Boy. So, and then when I say, "Oh, I'm Garreth," and they're like, "Oh, who's that? Who's Garreth?" kind of vibe.
I got you. And where did the name Soldier Boy come from? Is it something from childhood or?
If I told you, I'd have to kill you.
Oh, you and Liam Neeson. All right, let's move on. I've seen. I like that. That's what we call in the industry a tease. Very good tease for your book that's coming out.
No, man. I've always appreciated the military and kind of their work ethic and the rules that they follow and the discipline, and I kind of tried to mold myself around that kind of mentality, and that was what my career was based on. And when it came to picking a name, I kind of wanted that to be what represented me. And then the boy part is just kind of, I'm quite a fun guy. People don't realize I'm the guy in the gym that's playing tricks on everybody and hiding everything. And so it kind of just represented the two type of people that I am. I think it's a perfect description of me, in that the soldier's kind of what people see me in the MMA arena, and then the boy is kind of the guy you talk to on the face to face, and yeah, I mean, it's just an amazing name that's created an amazing brand for me.
Yeah, dude. I mean, I've been following your stuff for a long, long time. I mean, I want to be honest. I wasn't the biggest MMA guy, but I loved your stuff from early on, and I kind of like that. I love the fact that you're approachable. You know, let's get into your career, because you touched on it.
There's a few things that I just want to discuss before we go into my career. One would be this lovely jersey that I'm wearing. Yes, champions of England, champions of England, champions of the world. What else have they won?
Oh, my goodness.
In the last 18 months? They've won everything. Liverpool.
Let's hear it. This is my nightmare. This is unbelievable.
Well, I got an opportunity on live radio to talk about Liverpool winning the league. It's wonderful.
Oh, unradio, please. Unradio.
And then I heard some nonsense about some faraway rugby teams. They don't count. You shouldn't talk about them. They're just not on our level anymore.
This is unbelievable stuff. So now are Liverpool just it now? Are we gonna? How long are we gonna? You know what sucks about having to argue it with you is it's better to do it virtually, because I don't want to do it at the pub. Once again, don't want to have my shoulder dislocated.
Okay. But, let's
talk. Listen, we're here now. You forced me here. You put me under pressure. You've taken over. How are you feeling? It's been 30 rough years. Tell me, what were your emotions? Did you just WhatsApp or phone guys immediately when Chelsea, I just want to be clear, Chelsea kind of won the league for you. But anyway, let's move on from that. What was your first thing? Did you phone your mates? What happened there?
I kind of didn't know how I was going to react to the whole situation. I mean, I'm a diehard Liverpool fan. I don't miss a game, even if it's trying to watch it off my cell phone somewhere. You know, I'm always invested in. I've been in my lifetime, we've come close a few times, and then to kind of get across the line was an amazing feeling that we were the champions. I was incredibly stoked when I woke up in the morning and saw Chelsea had won the game. But yeah, I think it was this massive build up, and we had built all this momentum, and we were just looking unstoppable. And then, obviously COVID came in, and it just changed everything, and it kind of took the sting out of it. So it was kind of like, we won, but what can we how you can't really celebrate? It's just didn't have the same. It didn't have the same feel. So, super stoked. I do believe that Liverpool will potentially in the next 2 or 3 years put another one in the cabinets. I think that quality of side. I think Jurgen Klopp has really found a mixture of fantastic footballers. And if you look at the footballers he's bought, there hasn't been one real big money spend. Alisson, yes, Van Dijk. But in terms of the key guys and the guys who've really put their hands up this year, you're looking at £30 million players who are now all of a sudden worth in the hundreds. So he's built an incredible ethos, and I think that we're still yet to see the best out of Liverpool.
Wow. So you're saying dynasty loading?
Yeah, look, I think if I look at the trend of teams that have come through in the league over the last, say, 10 years, 11 years, there's been a dominance for at least 2 or 3 years, and then one of the other sides will kind of raise the game or buy better or bring in a better coach, and then the dynamic changes. Next year is a very, very interesting season. I think Liverpool is definitely the team to beat, along with Man City. But Man City don't look the same. I think Pep it's showing it again in himself that he's the kind of guy that when he's on top and he's out in front, he's very difficult to catch. Once you put him under a lot of pressure, you kind of see him crack. That happened at Barcelona. He was so dominant for so long, and then all of a sudden Real started to put him under pressure, and he ended up leaving, and then going into the Bundesliga. He was in the Bundesliga. He was dominant. What happened? Klopp came along. Klopp gave him a run for his money, won the Bundesliga, and he left and he came to England. Now Klopp has come to England. He's under pressure. The thing is, though, there's at least 6 or 7 sides in that Premier League that on their time can quite easily win the league if they have a good run. I mean, look at Leicester. They've won the league. They had a freak season. But they've looked good under Rodgers this year, and I think next year he'll have the ability to buy. There's quite a few in that top. I'd say at least 8 or 9 sides at the moment that next season with the right buys could be the champions.
Gotcha. Hey, so are you saying Pep's overhyped?
No, I don't think he's overhyped. I just don't think he's a good coach under pressure, and I don't think when he's being matched toe to toe, he breaks. When he's confident and his team's confident in the way they're playing with confidence, they're unbeatable. He produces the best sides in the world. But you saw when he started to lag at Barcelona, they just weren't the same. Left, all of a sudden they ignited. So you might see Pep for one more season, and I think he'll be gone from the Premiership and obviously on to maybe France or to the Italian League. I think would probably be his next stop.
So I want to make a correlation between a Pep guy and the environment you work in, right? So we can, I think we can transition to your career. A guy like Pep, to work at that intensity, everybody looks at it from the outside and goes, oh, it must be awesome to be in there. Wow. But it's grinding to win. You've been a winner. You've been a champion for over a decade. You know what it's like to win. It's a grind in there, right? You come from a karate MMA background. Is that to win's an ugly business. And when you introduce Pep, he's like a steroid to a highly fractious environment, right? Is he constantly wants to go. So these types of environments don't last forever. In your career, have you managed to keep the same team all along? And I mean, you've been at the top of the game for so long, or have you had to change your team every now and then just to keep things fresh for yourself?
Well, look, I think if you look at a thing where Pep is good, he has a winning formula. He plays a particular brand of soccer that is unbelievable, and he's won multiple. Or, in fact, I don't think there's a coach who's won as many trophies around the world. But his system gets figured out. So, without change, you become stagnant. You don't perform the same. You miss things. You become lazy. You kind of start to deteriorate. So yes, change is always a good thing. For the first part of my career, for almost 10 years, I was with Fight Fit Militia, and we built a fantastic unity, and I won 2 titles with them. Went to the UFC with them. I kind of then moved on into my own space, and I did an international fight with an old coach of mine who actually got me into MMA, and spent time with him in New Zealand, Jason. That was a great experience. And then I did it locally as well, and that was also a great experience. Stability is vitally important when it comes to being a champion. You need to have people around you that hold you accountable for yourself all the time, and who are not afraid to push you when you seem like you're going to break. In fact, they shouldn't be afraid to break you at all. Breaking in your preparation for anything is 100% part of the journey, because you must understand what it's like to be to win and be unstoppable, but you must also understand what it's like to break and know where the two spaces are, and what is the environment in between feel like. And then it teaches you to be mentally sharper, tougher, and more focused in what you're doing. It's a tough thing, you know. Any sporting industry is 100% mental, and mentality is built in preparation and confidence, enthusiasm, happiness, all sorts of different attributes. And you need to ensure that the people around you can give you that.
So, wow, love those words. Let's talk a little bit about your setup now. You know, like you said, you had the first phase of your career, and people may or may not know that you came from being a stellar rugby player. I mean, it was always right. You started at the Sharks Academy, and you were doing your thing there. Maybe talk us a little bit through the transition from, hey, I want to represent the Springboks, which I'm sure you would have, because you've gone on to show you're an elite athlete, the transition to MMA, and talk us through that.
Yeah, look, I kind of think I was one of those kids at school that just was fortunately very blessed with the ability to play any sport. And I was a lazy kid. I wasn't always the hard working guy that you see now. And that's kind of what I learned over time. So everything that I really did at school and kind of say club level to under 21 period was kind of me at 50 or 60%. But because I had the skill set, I was successful at it. And I was lazy towards rugby. I mean, my greatest passion was to play for the Springboks and be a professional rugby player. But I didn't have the intensity and drive that was needed to reach that level. Understanding now, being a professional athlete at the highest level, I understand what it takes to have been successful. And the unfortunate part is not that I wasn't capable, I was capable, but there was nothing that was fueling me to invest 100% into, you know, I was young. I just wanted to have fun and enjoy life. And so, you know, I kind of played it at a semi-serious level, and yeah, I got some good opportunities, which I wish I had done better at. But ultimately, rugby progressed me into a career of martial arts. Martial arts has been in my system since I was a young boy. So it wasn't something new. But again, martial arts wasn't something that I was trying to compete at and be the best at. You know, I just did it because I loved martial arts. And with me trying to change my work ethic and spending time with Jason Forster, the guy I spent in New Zealand, who I went to New Zealand with, he kind of changed my mentality a lot. He was a massive influence on me. He grounded me. He gave me some purpose and some direction. And yeah, he taught me a very valuable skill that has blessed me with the most incredible career.
What was the one thing he immediately changed in you? Was there one thing you had to build a foundation on that you didn't have? As you said, you were just having a good time. Was there one thing that he said to you, this is a non-negotiable, and then you guys clicked from there?
He just taught me to be a better person. He taught me humbleness. He taught me humility. He taught me the fact that there was always somebody out there that was better than you. He kind of nurtured me in a way in terms of being a big brother and guiding me from not making mistakes, and just taught me to lead a better life. Taught me what a real martial artist is about, and he taught me how to embrace that.
So, I think you're touching on a great point. Is for me, when I read a little bit about you guys as martial artists now, I'm talking is, as the public, it's always the perception is, oh, those are knuckleheads over there. Look at these knuckleheads punching each other. And if you obviously can get through the nonsense of that and you go to appreciate some of the things I think you're starting to talk about is what are the arts of the martial arts and these things that it introduces into your life? Discipline, respect, like you were saying, humility, because the art form will break you if you don't respect it, I'd imagine. Talk to me a little bit about this dealing with the misnomer of martial artists are knuckleheads. Is that something you've struggled with, or are you trying to educate the public in regards to the difference between a bully and a martial artist?
So I think the sport has changed a lot. I think it's changed people's perceptions massively. Like when I first started MMA and I was into sport, I mean, I was very fortunate. I went to a private school. I got a good education. My family didn't expect me to be an MMA fighter, and in the beginning frowned upon it, and it was difficult. It was tough in the beginning. A lot of people around me also were kind of like, what are you doing? What kind of environments are you putting yourself in? And which is understandable. It was filled with kind of the wrong type of characters, and it's all about education. You educate people, you teach people that we are not like that we're professionals, that we're athletes. A better part of my career was invested in showing people that I wasn't a heathen. I wasn't a guy who caused trouble. I wasn't a guy who kind of walked around with this arrogant attitude that I could beat people up and do what I wanted to. No, I wanted people to see me for who I was, and that was I always wanted to be a professional sportsman, and everything that I did in my career was to better myself as a professional. Martial arts in itself as a discipline taught me a lot of those valuable lessons. Just respect towards people, treating people as equals, never frowning upon people, good work ethic, discipline, long molded over long hard hours. People see kind of the 15 minutes or 25-minute title fight fame, and we want that. It was a very, very difficult journey. I isolated myself. I kind of took myself away from a lot of my friends and family because I had this want to be in the UFC. That was my dream, and I was willing to do whatever it took. And I learned a lot of life lessons along the way. A lot of people think that it was a perfect career. It wasn't. I fell on my face many times. I had to pick myself up. I made lots of mistakes, and the important thing was to learn from my mistakes. I think, and that over time created a brand that started to change a lot of people's mentality and realize, okay, well, these guys are not what we think they are. They are actually professionals. And I mean, I was a professional in every aspect of my career. The way that I communicated with people at a boardroom table when it came to negotiating contracts or sponsorships, then to functions, how I put myself out there and how I mingled and my mannerisms towards people, then my investments into fans. It was a rule that I made that I would be nothing that I am today if it wasn't for the fans and their investment in me. So I invested everything, and then just kind of being a mentor and a leader to young kids. And I mean, I still to this day, it's something that does take me back is I see young kids, small kids, I'm talking 4 and 5, and coming running to me and so excited, and kind of the way they looked at me like this, like almost, and I remember that feeling because there was people in sport that I looked at the same way, and I kind of understood at that stage. And it's probably one of the more satisfactory things in my career, is the way that I've made people feel and the excitement that I've brought to their lives. And then also the respect that they show me. And it really kind of drove me to be more and want to be more of a leader for them.
Man, I love that. And you touched on something awesome there, is that your career hasn't been perfect. For so many of us, Soldier Boy, we'll never be what you are, a world-class athlete. That term can be overused, is you're a world-class athlete. That's bona fide. You step in that cage, like you said, mentally, you're world-class. Physically, we don't need to argue that.
Okay.
Oh, sorry. It was the load shedding that we were talking about earlier. Anyway, I got you back. Yeah. But we're back. We are back. We've got a generator here. We are also professional, just like you. Cliff Central, very professional. So sorry, let me just finish my question, and then you can take it from there. I was just saying, everybody thinks your life was perfect, and you said your career wasn't perfect. What is it like to actually be a fighter? There's a difference between somebody who wants to go and punch people in the face at nightclubs and then pitch up in the cage and go for the glory. And what you are is you're a martial artist. What's it like to take me into the dungeon of training? You're alone. You're in camp. And you can't hide. This isn't rugby. This isn't cricket. You don't get to hide behind 10 other guys. What is it like to be in the cauldron of becoming a world-class fighter?
So just was something that you said that, like we're not world-class fighters, and that the thing is that every single person has the ability to be a world-class athlete, a world-class actor, and a superior businessman, whatever the case is, whatever they decide in their life. It's your wants, it's your desire, and then how much are you willing to sacrifice and how much are you willing to give to be what you want. And I think that just goes into the next part of what was the training like. I mean, the investment that I put in was hours and hours and hours, 7 days a week, birthdays, Christmases, parties, not missing people's birthdays, parties, not being there, not having fun with people. I can tell you 6 or 7 Christmases where I ate diet as opposed to enjoying Christmas with my family and having fun. But I knew that these are the sacrifices that needed to happen. The hours, a lot is said about champions are built in the time that people are not looking. And it's 100% true, because you can do the work that you're supposed to when it's the time, and okay, now it's your class and it's your training schedule and stuff like that. But it's what are you doing in the times when nobody's watching? What is your mindset then? What is your work ethic then? And you're going to fall and you're going to fail and you're going to feel inadequate and you are going to process so many emotions at any one time on this quest to be the best at whatever it is that you want. You just got to understand that momentary. You will experience highs and lows that you never thought that were possible. You need to hold on to what drives you. And you have to 100% dive head first. Nothing else. This is what I want. This is how I have to get it, and go for it. Being a fighter, it's a very, very lonely journey. It's a very selfish journey, and which is hard. It was terribly hard on my family and my children, because everything was about me. It was about what I needed, how I need to have it, what must be done, what schedule needs to follow, how must I eat, how must my food be prepared, and like I said, your support structures at those times are the most important things, because if they're right, you will 100% invest more than what you think you have. The human body and the human mind is way more, can do so much more than you could ever imagine. I pushed myself to places that I can't believe I even went there.
You know, Soldier Boy, you're talking about that family support. You know, this is something we don't look at with guys like yourself, because I don't believe in luck. I just want to be clear, right? That's where I'm coming from. Is for a guy like you, is you can't afford to apologize for greatness. And I'm sorry to speak on your behalf, but when you've got your family structure, talk to me about those people that were there for you. Of course, you got your kids, and are you a married man? Who are those core people in your family environment besides your fight family that were there for you and we're always, I can imagine, you're trying to be great. That's not for everybody. Who's there? Your wife, your kids? What is it that kept you in that support structure?
So, you know, I was very fortunate in my career. I had amazing people around me that always pushed me to be better. My wife, we've been married now almost 8 years. She was fantastic. She's been fantastic. She's sacrificed so much for me to give me what I need to be the best that I can. My children, my son he was a little bit young, so he's caught the back end of it. My daughter has been around all the time and for a long period, and she's been massively supportive. My own family were amazing. In the beginning, they didn't buy into it, but they saw my success. They saw it made me happy, and they kind of became one of my biggest fans. I've had good coaches along the way who've mentored me and always given me sound advice, always made me look further within myself to see where the mistakes are and what can be better. I've had amazing sponsors who've supported me over a 12-year career and that have been with me right from the beginning. So, you know, I was incredibly blessed but through hard work, I created this incredible support system that allowed me to push South African MMA and allowed me to take it to the level that it can, and that created a platform for incredible young fighters that are going to come through and are going to do big things for South Africa.
Listen, for me, you don't need to explain to me that you're a high character guy, because one thing I know about the corporate world is they're not just going to give money to anybody. They will not. It is, and I can see you smiling because I think you know what I'm talking about, is they will do their research. And if there is a crack in your character, so forget what you do, they're out. Because one thing corporates hate is character controversy, right? They're out. But so for me, you're already in a controversial sport. We live in a very conservative country, but they said, oh no, that's a guy we can bank with this guy. Oakley, we're on board 10 years. Hey, no problem, because we've checked out his character and he's on board. And I think you can be very, very proud of that because you're a very capable man and you were still humble enough to go, every person matters. You maintained your relationships. I'm sure you've seen enough people. They start to get a little bit big and then they forget, oh, I got to be a decent person. I got to look after my family. I have to manage the relationships. So big kudos to you, my brother. That's not luck. And I'm sure you've received a lot of hate for it. But I say, hey, to those haters, go jump in a lake, because this guy worked not just on his art, but he worked on his character. So big up to you, bro. Big up to you. I'm serious about that.
Yeah, thank you. That's really kind of you. But I mean, you must also understand that process was also on trial and error. You know, I had to continuously check myself, continuously remind myself of who I am and where I'm at. And it's not easy. It's easy to get carried away. It's easy to be one of the guys and one of the boys. And, you know, we're South African. We're very social people. And we always, you know, we want to be out around our friends. And we, you know, and being also in the like a rugga boy, it was all about rugby and then the fines meetings and the beers and all these kind of things. And, you know, there's a lot of habits that I needed to break, and there's a lot of things that I needed to respect myself to respect myself, I then could respect everything else. So yeah, I mean, it was hard. It wasn't easy. And you're right, going to talk to massive corporate companies and bringing them on board and having them back me the way that they did in a sport which really there was no potential. There wasn't anything on the table. There wasn't the ability to make money. It was all something we had to build over hard work. We had to change people's perceptions. We then also had to keep people excited. So it was kind of the right amount of gentleman crossed between the right amount of crazy, finding that in between, not allowing one side to become more tipped than the other, so that it didn't affect the way that I fought. I learned incredible, valuable lessons about myself, about my ability to do business, my ability to be successful, and what creates success, not only just within the fighting arena. And these are all things that I'm now transgressing into my business endeavors and my future. And I see the same traits and the same qualities that I used within the fighting arena, and the same mentality I've shifted across it into the business world. And it's really holding great success for me. And it's kind of almost like that. I think a lot of sportsmen don't know when they come out. They go, "Oh, what am I going to be?" They're so used to being this tennis player or the soccer player or the rugby player, being in the limelight, and they kind of forget how to be themselves, and they also kind of forget about how to plan for their future. Everything and every quality that you have as a sportsman and that you learn and that you possess is 100% the right elements to put them into a business structure. It's just about learning how to do that. I knew my success as a fighter and as a brand came in my ability to structure myself as a business. And
got you.
I kind of taught myself. I've had good mentors along the way that has taught me as well, which has been fantastic. So yeah. I've used that knowledge now, and I'm now pushing that into the second part or second chapter of my life.
So I just want to tell you how I know you're a high character guy. So I hadn't spoken to a guy at Oakley in 6 years because I used to work in the ski and snowboard industry. So we got to know all the guys at Oakley, obviously. I got a WhatsApp about you. So I haven't spoken to the guy in 6 years. And just so people don't think, oh, he came on the show, so I'm trying to suck up to Soldier Boy. I got a message. He said, that is the nicest guy I've ever worked with. Not prompted. He just saw on social media that I was having you on the show tonight. That's the type of relationships you've built. A guy I haven't spoken to in 6 years sent me a WhatsApp to say he is the nicest guy. So listen, you have set yourself up brilliantly, and it's not luck. You've done that. So I'm just telling you what happened, man. So big up to you. Hey, I was a big fan before this, and then hearing some of the things you're saying, bro, you got my support. I cannot wait to support everything you're doing. Listen, before this turns into a Joe Rogan, no, absolute pleasure. And thank you for everything you've done. I want to just quickly, before we get to questions, because you've been so gracious with your time, I don't want to take the mickey and take too much more time, I want to talk to you about expectation. Let's face it, the FC was built on your back, right? What was that like? Were you feeling the pressures? And I know you're a humble man. Yes, there were other people. Yes, there were other characters in the story, but you're the guy. What was that like? Did they come to you and say, hey, we're going to put it on your back? Or how was it for you? How was that transition to making EFC local, regional, and then global, and that being built on your back? And then you went MMA, of course, but you went you went with Dana and the guys overseas, UFC. But what was it like in the transitioning of EFC and being the guy?
I don't think that I really saw it like that. I knew that I was playing a big role. I think there was a few people around me. I don't think I was the only one that built it. I think there was different attributes. I think the EFC, the Garreth brothers and Graham Cartmell did a fantastic job as promoters. I think myself and Fight Fit for Militia as a gym at that stage and up until recently, they created a good ethos and created great fighters out of there. There was a group of guys around us that, between the 6 or 7 of us really just pushed hard because we all had the same vision. probably the difference in myself as opposed to a lot of the other guys was I was really good at marketing myself. I found good ways and to market myself, and that kind of maybe gave me the edge. I don't know. I don't believe that I was the most talented fighter by any chance or any yard. I still to this day believe I'm probably one of the hardest working guys that have ever graced the EFC, and I still believe potentially on an international level the UFC octagon. I pride myself on my work ethic and what it did for me, and that made Soldier Boy was what I invested, I think, into it, and the reward came from my investment. So you know, I've just got to, I've 100% got to give hard work all the credit in that, and you know, I was super blessed by the Lord above in terms of great opportunities, and like I said, good people around me kept me straight and narrow.
Absolutely.
And invested in it was kind of a conglomerate of things, and maybe they were drawn to me, maybe there was an attraction. I mean, I really don't know. The story is just the craziest story. I mean, I was fighting in a tent on the beachfront in Durban, and next minute I was in the UFC. So it kind of was over a period of time, but it was just all so fast. And wow, man, I've had some great battles along the way. Those great battles ignited the name and gave the name more value. And so in those fights, there were particular guys: Jacques Chabert, Jeremy Smith, Trickus du Plessis, Donnie van Heerden's, Tamela Maputus. Just each fight just brought something different out in me, and then just out in the environments and the sports. It was new, it was interesting, and it was fast, and I gave people something to talk about and to kind of like buy into. I think it was a lot of things. I mean, I can't particularly point one thing and say, well, this was the reason that I was successful. I think it was a host of things, qualities of myself and the people around me, and then the environment, and just an exciting new sport.
You know what I think it was? You've done well not to tell any of them that you're a Liverpool fan. So they're kind of like, oh, okay, we can go with him. And then they found that out. Like,
I just want to tell you that we are the champions.
Okay.
No matter how much you look at the log, no matter how much you try and erase it, it's history. It will always be there. Always
it's unbelievable. It's unbelievable. Listen, you're a guy. I want to talk to you about the modern day game, and then if you don't mind taking some questions, then we'll let you go to that great family of yours. The Fighting Irish, right? You guys are the Fighting Irish. There's Conor McGregor, there's you. Like, what is it about you Irish guys, man? Is there something in your blood? Is it all these years of struggle?
We're scrappers. We're scrappers.
You're scrappers. That's
we're scrappers.
I mean,
we're scrappers.
There you have it. I mean, Jesse Randolph is saying exactly what I was thinking, is you're the Conor McGregor of South Africa. Or I prefer to say he's the Garreth McLellan of Ireland. That's what we should really say.
Well, he's younger than me, so he definitely was not around when I was around. So I would more likely to think that Conor is the updated version of myself.
And then let's talk a little bit this weekend, because Fight Island, Dana White,
man,
number one.
Geez.
What do you think of Dana White as a guy? So I'll ask you two questions, then you can answer both of them. What do you think of Dana White as a guy, having had to, I'm sure, interact with him? And then talk me through Fight Island and this weekend's card. I want to hear about Masvidal and Usman on your take.
So I think Dana White is kind of the godfather of MMA. He's done an incredible job to take something also back in the day that was just kind of struggling. It was something that was bankrupt. They bought it for, I think it was $2 million. And he just built it into an empire by smart decisions, ruthless decisions. I mean, he's a ruthless businessman. And But yeah, he's made MMA the most lucrative sport in the world at the moment. It's it's probably close or even a little bit ahead of soccer in terms of its biggest sport. Forbes rated them as the most lucrative sport in the world. I mean, it's exceptional in such a short space of time. We're not spanning hundreds of centuries. Well, modern day gladiators have been around for centuries and kind of hand-to-hand combat, but he kind of modernized it. He gave it rules, he gave it meaning, he gave it business ethics, he gave it the ability for people to look at it as a sport. Yes, it's still brutal, don't get it wrong, we're fighting, but he gave it class. And I don't think that I've ever seen, I don't think I've ever had somebody watch an MMA fight and go, oh no, I don't like that. Everybody is drawn to MMA by something. There's something that attracts you to MMA, whether it be the lights, the music, the fast-paced action, the fighting, you name it. I mean, there's just something for everybody in there, and that grips people.
Yeah, it's nature, right? It's nature. Like you leave two little boys or two little girls alone for long enough, they'll be scrapping. Like there's something in all of us. Will you know?
It's just who we are. I mean, it's just kind of something that speaks to our kind of caveman instinct.
I couldn't agree more.
Yeah, and he's done a fantastic job to kind of constantly reinvent the wheel. And every time he saw MMA, kind of like, he just something came up with an amazing idea, boom, and it just changed, and then it exploded again. I mean, again, they were the first sport to be back shooting live events. You know, he said he didn't take no for an answer. He made sure that he did it properly. They're an incredible company. They're on the money. Their safety procedures are out of this world. So you must know that their COVID safety procedures are probably that of a secret government. You know, now all of a sudden, okay, well, how do I inject hype back into it? Oh, let's go. Fight Island. Oh, everybody, Fight Island. I want in. Oh, look, choose me. Big hype, up. And he made it happen. He made Fight Island happen.
He did make it happen.
He said he was going to do it, and he did it. And that's
nobody believed him.
It kind of speaks to Dana's character. Dana doesn't care who you are, what you are. You won't tell him he can't do something because he will do it. He has the business. Awesome. He has the knowledge. He has the money. He has the experience. He has great people around him, and that's what makes UFC such a great organization. And they will constantly evolve. They're a company that's not going to get weaker. They're just going to get stronger.
Him and the Fertitta brothers, right? Soldier Boy, was it what, 2 million at the beginning? It is the Fertitta brothers.
Him and 4.8 billion. Dana made himself 350 million. You know,
it's sickening. I love Dana. I'm glad you like him as well. Talk to me about this weekend's card. Yeah,
I like Dana. I like Dana because he just tells the truth.
Yeah,
he's 100% truthful, and he doesn't care who likes him and who doesn't like him. It doesn't bother him, and that's, I think, how people must be. Just tell the truth, because the truth is that you can't argue the truth. There's no rebuttal to it. You just make yourself look stupid against the truth, and
the truth is
I like that about
story.
him. The truth will set you free, my man.
Oh, come on, bro. Come on.
Yes.
Soldier Boy. He's not, hey, this is a guy. This is a guy. Listen, Soldier Boy, Usman, talk to me about the Masvidal coming in late.
What an incredible fight.
I want to hear you, sorry, before you get into it. I want to hear it from you, because it's not knuckleheads like me who've once been punched in a ring, you know. I've been watching boxing, so I think I know everything. Talk me through the different styles. I want to hear that, number one, and then give me your prediction for Usman Masvidal.
So, I've obviously got a podcast, and we were discussing this on the podcast.
What's the podcast called? Hold on, whoa, let's punt it. I want to punt it.
It's MMA Uncaged Fight Club.
Where do we find it?
It's at MMA MMA Uncaged Fight Club, Instagram, Twitter, Facebook. We've just launched We're on episode 8. We discuss all MMA-related topics, local, international, fights, upcoming fights from previous weekends. Good group of guys. There's 3 of us. A lot of you'll know CS. CS is involved, and myself, and one of my long-time friends. Yes, and one of my long-time friends.
Tell him I want some coffee. I love that guy. He's an awesome
Ginger Fox.
I love that guy.
Ginger Fox coffee.
Get us some coffee. I'm a coffee snob, by the way. This guy here. I don't drink. Yeah, I don't drink nonsense. So, and I love CS. So it's you, CS,
and a longtime friend of mine, Justin Ferrier, who's a massive MMA fan, been in the industry for a very long time, and he actually is one of the senior guys in terms of officials in South Africa. So he's kind of got a back office role. And we just. We have fun. We ridicule each other a little bit. We talk MMA. We just have a good time. But we were discussing it this weekend, and it's such an interesting matchup because I thought that the Gilbert Burns Kamaru Usman fight was an exceptional fight that they put together, and I look forward. I think Gilbert Burns is a beast. He's fearless. He's aggressive. Oh man, he's kind of like a Paulo Costa or. He's just a specimen that you really don't want to be in the ring with. And then he got sick he got COVID. He wasn't allowed in, and it was like, that's kind of a letdown. I like Kamaru Usman. He's got that North African gene. He's just a physical specimen. He's a warrior at heart. He's got an unbelievable wrestling skill set, and he just paired it with this. North African destroy mentality, and he kind of looked like a guy that was like, what is it going to take to beat him? Come to the picture, Masvidal. These guys have been at each other's throat for the last 2 years, I would say 3 years. They have been back and forth, and they've been trying to tee this fight up for a long time. Masvidal is an incredibly skillful striker who learns his trade in backyard fighting. And if you know anything about backyard fighting, it's ruthless. It's there's no weight divisions. There's no kind of rule sets. You got a bunch of guys standing around. They're kind of like, okay, that's enough. Let's separate. Let's start again. And he's been doing that from a very young age. That's how he made money. That's how he looked after himself. He's had hundreds of fights. And you can't teach that experience. Just a combat environment, constant combat environment. You can't teach experience, and you can see that in himself and his demeanor. He trusts himself 100%, and he's got grit. He's South American. You know, the South Americans, they're not afraid of anything either. They're a lot like South Africans. In fact, in all my travels, the two or three nations, I would say the 3 nations that stood out the most in terms of mentality and physical and willingness to it's a fight. Okay, let's fight. Is 1, the Russians, 2, the South Africans, and 3, the South Americans, your Brazilian kind of environment. And he brings something different. He there's such an X factor about him. It's I can't explain it. And he's had a long journey, so it's not like he was a star. He's had to make himself a star through hard work, grind. Sometimes not on the route that you would expect, having to go into backyards and fight to make a name for himself, to progress to the next level. He's kind of gone through each level to make it there.
17 years he's been in the fight game. 17 years before he became a star.
He just 100% has the ability to put Kamaru Usman lights out with something absolutely crazy. Kamaru Usman, he's no slouch on the feet either. He's got incredible power. He's a strong human being. You saw what he did to Tyron Woodley. He just absolutely dominated him. Ragdolled him, and not many people can do that to Tyron Woodley. I must say, is that a factor? Is that going to be a factor in this fight? Is Masvidal going to be able to compete on that level? I think he'll be incredibly prepared. He's a super fit guy, so he's going to make it very difficult. It's all about range. How does he control the range? And don't expect to see him do something outlandish and outrageous within the first 30 seconds. As the fight goes on, is that grinding mentality gonna win the fight? Man, I promise you now, you guys are seriously looking at potentially one of the greatest fights you'll ever watch.
Wow. You're saying one of the greatest of all time?
Of all time. If it delivers the way that it's supposed to, it 100% will be.
So it's quite cool, right? So I'm a boxing guy. I've been watching boxing since I was tiny. There's a saying in combat sports, styles make fights, right? And this is an awesome mesh of that wrestler, grappler, and like you were saying, a guy who's an all-round, in Masvidal, you've got the guy he's a Swiss Army knife.
Well, I think the thing is for the situation that happened, taking a fight on 6 weeks, he's got nothing to lose. He really doesn't.
Sure.
He walks in, I took this fight on 6 week notice, I got an opportunity and I'm going to go for it. The last time we saw that happen was Mike Bisping versus, oh man, what's his name? Middleweight. He was the middleweight champion.
We're supposed to be a big-time fight show here. And I know who you're talking about. It's going to kill me when it comes to it. Not Ferguson.
I can't believe I've gone blank as well. It's completely missed.
Don't be too hard on yourself. You're busy doing other stuff really well. It'll come back to us. Talk to me. Who you got in the fight? Usman?
I'm 100% going with Masvidal. I'm 100% going with Baby Jesus.
Yeah, there we go.
He must bless him. He must bless him with the right hand on his chin. No, listen, I think he is so underrated as a fighter. Darren Till was on the tear was on this unbelievable tear. The people feared Darren Till. No one wanted to come in. He was like, I'll fight him, and he knocked him out.
Yeah, knee to the temple straight away. Here's my knee. There's your temple.
Same as Ben Askren, same fight. Ben Askren on a tear. No one wanted to fight Ben Askren. Masvidal, I'll fight him. Boom. Put him lights out.
Phenomenal.
So,
okay. Soldier Boy. So you're saying he's one of the greatest fights of all time?
I really do think. I think that Usman's going to have to invest a lot to beat him. I think that he's going to have to take the chances he's going to have to run risks to put this guy away. I don't think that he is going to have his way as much as he thinks with Masvidal. I think Masvidal is going to shock a lot of people in terms of what his MMA capabilities are. And I think we could be in for a new champion.
There you have it. Okay, on that note, because that's what we're going to cut. I think we could be in for a new champion. Hey, Soldier Boy, can we take 2 questions and then I'll let you go?
Let's go, 100%.
Awesome. Let's hit it. We've taken already. We're going to turn into a Joe Rogan podcast here. Shane Gregan, or was it Gregan, says, it must be quite a feeling stepping into an environment where you know the guy opposite you wants to flying knee you in the face. Can you share the fight night emotion with us?
I think for me that a lot of my emotion was be not so much into the fight night. It would kind of be 2 or 3 days prior to the actual weigh-in when I was cutting weight, and it all also had a lot to do with how I was feeling. I was depleting myself, so kind of you get emotional, and then you start to think, oh, we're right on the doorstep, and have I done enough, and am I prepared? And then that's when all the emotions and the questions and the fear and kind of all just comes at you. And there's not an MMA fighter in this world that can tell you with a straight face and I would tell them they'd be lying, that can say they've never been scared. Fear is a very real thing in terms of fighting, and it's just how you absorb that fear and what do you do with it. I kind of got to a stage where once I hit weigh-in day, I would be nervous, really nervous before weigh-in, and I would kind of like have to compose myself and, oh, am I really doing this? And question myself, and why am I doing this? And, all these silly things. And then Wayne came and I locked eyes on my opponent, and then that was it. The confidence filled through me. I knew through my preparation that I'd done the right things. I knew that I was ready, and it kind of just this energy started to come into me and build, and I kind of started putting myself into this fight zone and this thing. I like to stay very relaxed backstage, so I was kind of always chilled out. I didn't really become too intense. Warm up, then, get ready, get the emotions ready, get focused. I believed in my preparation. Song on, game on, switch on. That was it. There was no time for my emotions. There was no more time for wondering what ifs and what was going to happen and how was this going to play out. I was there to do my job and I needed to do it. So,
that's awesome.
I think the first few times that I walked down the runway in terms of getting into the cage, there was a lot of fear, but I learned how to process that and tap it out and then just be 100% zoned in and doing my job.
Oh, man, that's awesome. All right, what else we got, Dave? Zedo Rover says, who do you think is the next SA fighter we'll be seeing moving to the UFC?
Well, listen, we've got some really good talents out here. We've got we'll definitely see Dricus du Plessis in the UFC at some stage. He's kind of just being very strategic with his career and making the right choices because he's got a fantastic team around him, and he will definitely 100% be in the UFC. We've got Eddie already, and he's on a 2-fight win streak. He's a guy who's been in martial arts his whole life as well, and he's championship mentality, and he's a champion, and he's going to do very well in the UFC. There's we've got guys fighting in a guy fighting 1FC, Bakang BK, phenomenal. All the wrestling accolades you could possibly think of. And he's lighting China up. I mean, they're loving him out there. Sure, there's a guy from Dricus's gym, a youngster, Cameron Seaman. He's also starting to make some waves. There's a guy who I trained a lot with, Temba Garumbo, he's a current welterweight champion. He's got all the potential in the world to fight in the UFC. He's from that North African breed of fighters. You'll probably see him there shortly. I think once COVID and that kind of it disappears, I think that's made it very difficult for people. I'm trying to think.
Is there one guy though? Is there one guy that you've kind of seen? Of course, you're talking about the talent is raw and so lots of talent guys. Is there one guy you've seen and you've thought, okay, there's talent, but he seems to get it mentally? Is there one guy who's starting to separate themselves in your mind and you kind of seeing if he sticks at it, he may be our guy very soon?
I think there's a few guys around that'll make that progression into the UFC, and then it's all about once you get there. It's all about leveling up. It's the pinnacle of the sport. It's the best fighters in the world. Each level is new. There's something new. Are we capable 100%? Do we have the ability 100%? It's just about experience. And as we go along, the more people that we're getting through the UFC ranks, the more that the experience level grows in fighters, in coaches, and then that kind of spreads out. And within the next couple of years, you'll definitely see a potential champion or somebody who is very close from South Africa.
Hey, that's awesome. Soldier Boy, I can see why people like you. Let me just ask you one more and then I'll let you go. Lulama says, in your opinion, who's the one fighter who revolutionized the sport?
I think there's been a few. I think there's been periods. Like I said, it's periods that have changed the momentum of the sport. UFC was very stagnant, and then it was kind of in a very bad way until the Forrest Griffin, Stephan Bonner fight, and that completely changed MMA altogether. I think that was kind of the backbreaker in the US, and then once that happened, that kind of grew, and there's many names that have come through: John Jones, Daniel Cormier's, Stipe Miocic, Brock Lesnar while he was in the UFC for a time. Anderson Silva, probably the greatest fighter of all time. George St. Pierre also, him and Anderson Silva, joint tie for probably best martial artists you've ever seen. The new breed that are coming through, there's the Israel Anasandes, the Borrachinos. Very interesting fight tomorrow is Peter Yan versus Jose Aldo. Jose Aldo, old breed. Peter Yan, new breed of Russian youngsters. Khabib is just revolutionizing the way that
not human.
Exactly. He's a different level of fighter he's not out to market, and he's the perfect fighting machine at the moment. Conor McGregor.
He was wrestling bears at 4. The guy was wrestling bears. How we shouldn't be letting the guy. He's Mowgli. He's Mowgli from Russia.
These guys are going to constantly come along, and they're just going to change. Conor revolutionized the game in terms of taking MMA to the world. He was the guy that bridged that gap, changed that gap for us. And, he's one of the guys that's very vocal now at the moment about fighters being paid more and getting what they do. There's Ronda Rousey. Ronda Rousey was a female. She was the biggest female name. She became this huge icon in MMA. She changed it. There's Amanda Nunes. There was Chris Cyborg. Then there was Amanda Nunes. So it's kind of every 2, 3, 4 year period, somebody new comes on the block and just boom, takes it up. I think the guy that's going to carry the torch the furthest is probably now the guy who's going to take over is going to be that. John Jones would have been that guy, but just too many indiscretions and kind of he's big black tick next to his name. And I think a lot of people appreciate him for the type of fighter that he is and what he's done and what he'll go down in history as, but just his character is flawed. And I think people will remember that more than he as a fighter.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more. Hey, Soldier Boy, I hate to do this to you before I let you go, but you were in the ring with this Brazilian. Tell me what separates this Paulo Costa, because I've watched some stuff and I'm like, this guy I look in his eyes and I just see an absolute terror of a human being. What's it like to be in the ring with something that real? Because you're real. You are real.
He was a beast. He's a big guy, big strong guy, built, power, speed. He's got all the attributes of a really great stand-up guy. He's got incredible jiu-jitsu. He's young. He's hungry. He in my opinion, Borrachino Adesanya fight is going to be kind of the breaking ground for the new breed, the new guy.
Gotcha.
I think that you're going to see between the two of them who's better on the feet. Does Paulo Costa show everybody he's wrestling? He's got fantastic jiu-jitsu. I mean, people don't realize, but he's incredibly good on the floor. Incredibly good on the floor. For me, it was a disappointment. I didn't really have a lot of time to prepare for him. I had 2 weeks. It was kind of short notice fights. I'd wish I'd had more time to prepare for him. He threw a lot of numbers. He was super aggressive. He was still kind of new into the UFC, so kind of I think USADA restrictions didn't apply to him at that stage. Because he was a monster of a guy when I fought him. When I fought him to what he is now, not the same guy.
So what are you suggesting there? With the USADA, what are you saying there? You reckon there was?
No, look, I really don't know. I mean, if that's him naturally, then he was ridiculously strong. He was. I consider myself at that, and I consider myself a strong and big middleweight, and he made me look small, basically.
No, Dave, I'm not going to put you in a position. You're not the first person to say it, by the way. So is Conor really retired? And now we really have to listen. The people love you. And after talking to you, I understand why. Sorry, the questions are just, guys are saying now, is Conor really retired? And I tell you what, take this question. Is Conor really retired? So we'll talk about the second most important fighting Irish of all time. And let's finish off with what is the Soldier Boy up to for the rest of his career? do we expect to see him back in the cage? So is Conor really retired? And then the most important Irish fighting man in the history of mankind. I'm now your biggest fan. What is Soulja Boy up to? So take those two questions and we'll finish it up.
Yeah, look, I think Conor's an excellent marketing strategist. I think he's a clever guy. He's an exceptionally good businessman. And who knows, maybe he's retired. The man's made an incredible amount of money and doesn't really need to fight anybody again. But he's a competitor. He's a martial artist. So it's in his blood, and he will definitely be back in the ring at some stage. I think the Kamaru Usman Masvidal fight is incredibly interesting in that if Masvidal wins, I think you will 100% see title shots against Conor McGregor. When we will be back, I don't know. It's kind of all just up in the air at the moment, but that's what it is. That's what he does. He throws things out there. I'm retired. Now everybody's talking about him. Now there's amazing matchups for him. Is there another boxing match? What is he going to do next? I mean, that's what creates a good brand awareness and a good marketing strategy. For myself, I've been very blessed and lucky in my transition that I'm in my family business. I run my family business. We are big. We do big power solutions for African countries, utility companies, big mining houses, big construction companies in Africa. My dad's now decided to step out and enjoy his retirement, and it's been my responsibility to get in and learn the business along with some other youngsters that we've got in our company that we've put together. And we're pressing forward. Massive things in the future for us. Already massive things this year. We've had an incredible year. We're incredibly blessed in a time that no one is certain of anything. Our business is growing exponentially. Not without a hard fight. It's very difficult. It's a new environment for me, so I constantly have to evolve and develop myself. But yeah, we're an exciting business. We have a big vision, and we're looking to control the electrical network supply industry within Africa within the next year or two. And we've got the right partners around us and the right investments. I didn't really think that's where I'd be, and I didn't really think that I would enjoy it so much. But it was a new experience, and it testing me just as much as what MMA did. My principles that I applied within MMA, I'm applying to business, and I'm seeing great success with that. And I'm very excited about the future. Anybody wants to do some business, talk some business, line it, contact me on Facebook or Instagram on Soulja Boy Inc. My email is Garreth at linet.co.za. So yeah.
Cool.
Give us a buzz. Anything electrical.
We'll put the details. We can chat after this. You'll just send me all your details. We'll put it in the description in the video. But if guys don't pay, do you kind of just...
My dad likes to think that's a good option, but there's better ways to resolve issues without having to be violent.
I would if I had you as my son, I would be making you do ankle locks on people. I would want you to get in there.
My son do ankle lock. I'm teaching my son how to ankle lock now, and he's 5 years old.
Let's go. That's the next MMA champion from Africa. Hey, Soulja Boy, you've been so gracious with your time, brother. You are welcome here anytime. What's the podcast called again? We'll put it in the description.
MMA Uncaged Fight Club. Yeah, give us a follow.
MMA Uncaged Fight Club.
At MMA Uncaged Fight Club. Give us a follow. Give us a listen. Yeah, we're a band of MMA enthusiasts who love MMA, love talking about it, and our show is it's fun, it's interesting, and hit us up.
Love it.
Yeah, make sure you give us a follow.
It's gonna listen, bro. Well, I was like a fan before this, but this is it. You sold me. You're the guy, and you know what? Expectation usually crushes most of us. You seem to be carrying yourself with an element of class, when, like you say, you've been blessed, but you've put yourself in position to succeed and you haven't let it go to your head from the looks of things. You're a cool guy, dude. You're a cool guy, bro. You don't have
Thank
to
you
be.
very much. I really appreciate that, man.
You didn't have to give us this much time, but you've done it. Garreth Soldier Boy, McLellan, you are the guy. Thank you very much. Cannot wait to have you back again, my brother. Anytime, you're welcome.
Okay, thank you very much. Thanks a lot, eh?
Yes, brother. Ladies and gentlemen, the champ, the real one. He was the first. No one can ever say they were him. He was the first. We put EFC on his back. He put us on the map at UFC with Dana White and the guys. He was our guy, and he's a classy, classy character. Great way to finish the week. Great way. Nearly became a Joe Rogan podcast there. All right, next week, we've got a big guest. If you're a golf person, Wednesday, look out for it. It's booked. It's in the can. I can tell you right now, Lee Westwood, next week, Wednesday. Look out for that. We'll have some great interviews next week. To all of you, have a great, safe, blessed weekend. Ladies and gentlemen, enjoy the fighting and enjoy the football and enjoy the rugby. Most of all, enjoy your family time and be safe, be blessed, stay healthy. It has been a different ballgame.